Inspire series, as you all know, is a conversation about individuals' journey towards their ambition, towards their success, their failures. They talk about the personal journeys they've had to reach where they have reached. We have 4 amazing speakers from varied walks of life to talk about their individual experiences. So we hope that you all get a lot out of it and get a lot of personal inspiration to get out of this particular event. So with that, I would have our introducers introduce the speakers. So Amit, could you please come up and introduce Kalki?
Good afternoon. It is my distinct honor to introduce Ms. Kalki Subramaniam. She's an Indian transgender activist, artist, author, actor, and inspirational speaker. She's the founder of Sahodari Foundation, which works for the well-being of transgender persons in India. Through the Sahodari Foundation, she has a campaign for education, for jobs, for the disprivileged transgender community. Kalki advocates in India against discrimination of transgender people and voices of their inclusion at all levels. Sorry. She has spoken at numerous academic institutions across India and has been fiercely creating awareness among millions of students on transgender equality in India. Kalki is one of the major campaigners behind the Indian Supreme Court verdict legalizing transgender identity in India. She has become the first transsexual actor in India to lead a role in an Indian major motion picture, Nartakari, and uses experimental poetry and artworks for their theater performances. She has received numerous awards for social work and her literary contributions towards transgender rights. Her collection of poetry, published in 2014, speaks volumes about the necessity for equality of transgender people. On March 8, 2015, Facebook chose Kalki as one of the 12 most inspiring women of the world who used Facebook for community development in 2016. She continues to voice for social justice of the marginalized through the powerful artworks, literature, performances, and speech. Through the sale of her own personal works of art, she's able to fund an education of the trans community that are left in the shadows and not seen in the light of education. For me, it's a personal pleasure to introduce Kalki, as we spoke earlier today, and I'm truly inspired by the work she has done for the transgender rights movement in India, as we see that that is the true way to get LGBT rights in India. Thank you so much.
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். Wonderful people on the dais, வணக்கம், and everybody here, a very good evening. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, sir. And I'm really honored to be invited to this wonderful conference. India is a land of diversity. It has always been a land that has been inclusive of all genders, of all sexes, of all cultures. Once a country of diversity, once a country of its own beautiful history, with all the mythologies in our country like Ramayana and Mahabharata, celebrating the diversity of gender fluidity and our sexual orientation. Now India has produced those beautiful gender fluid people called transgenders as beggars and sex workers. What was once a country of celebrating man becoming woman or woman becoming man and vice versa, which you can see in all our sculptures, scriptures, that diversity, that celebration It was destroyed after the arrival of the British in our country. With their narrow-minded politics, law, and values, it has definitely destroyed our country. Especially the Criminal Tribes Act, which they brought 200 years before. That act had criminalized almost 33 tribal communities, which includes the transgender people as well. Even though after the independence, India's independence in 1948, that act was scrapped, but the effect of that act, till today, it is prevalent. As a child born as a boy, I had gone through severe internal confusions. As a child, I had no family I had a family, but it was difficult for my family to accept my gender fluidity. At 13, I told my parents that I wanted to be a woman, but India, which celebrates our sons and not daughters, my mother was not happy about it. She was indeed shattered. And at 15, I wanted to commit suicide because I had severe discrimination and bullying and teasing at school where I studied, not only by my fellow students, but also by my teachers. And at 18, I was sent to a mental health center where I was staying there for a month because they thought it is a disease. My family thought it is some kind of a disorder, but no treatment, nothing happened because I don't have an illness. People are born this way. It was not my choice, it was God's choice, and I'm happy about it. I've gone through so many challenges in life. And at school, if it was about discrimination and bullying, at college, it was even more. It was sexual violence against me, and it was so difficult for me to complete my undergraduation and post-graduation degree. And at 13, I had a friend who was a transgender who had been abandoned by her family. I was a kid who was in search of people like me. I became friends with her. She was indeed a sex worker, must be 20-year-old. I was walking with her along a dark lane because our friendship was not accepted by our families. Suddenly, seven persons in an auto rickshaw, they come very fast, pull her inside the auto rickshaw, kidnap her, and take her away. I run to my home, and I cried that whole night, not sleeping. The next morning, I came running towards her house. It was locked. I waited for her, and then she came, all her clothes torn. She was ripped apart, raped that whole night by 7 people. And I told her, let's go to the police. She cried, and then I couldn't control. I cried, and she told me, the police will not help us because I am a sex worker too, and they will only question me, not them. So that was when my first anger against the injustice being done to the transgender population, I had witnessed it. And since then, in so many periods of my life, I have seen so many of my community, especially the young people, committing suicide, being murdered, being raped. Why does that happen in our society, in our India? Because a woman is not celebrated. Being a transgender or being a woman is a shameful thing. I know almost all of my friends have been disowned by their parents, have been rejected by their parents. And at a young age, they step out of their homes and they begin to live with other transgender people. And what do they do for living? Begging and sex work. And they become the targets of violence, rape. And when they go for sex work, they are prone to get raped and HIV positive. They become HIV positive and they die. They have no dreams. And what was their mistake being born this way? I was one of those lucky few people who have been accepted by my parents, our families. I was the only, probably the very few in India who has been nurtured, educated by a family. And I was privileged. I'm really happy that my family accepted me. My parents have a big heart, and I wish all our parents in India had that big heart. If only they have accepted our children, the transgender children, you wouldn't see hijras begging on the streets. You wouldn't see the transgender community standing in line in cities waiting for clients. If that has to change, India has to accept transgender people. India has to understand that diversity is a beautiful thing, and India is all about diversity. As personally, as a transgender woman, I have at various points of my life, it has been a journey of hurdles, but it has also been a journey of joy. My gender identity, people like me, our gender identity may be a mystery, but it is nothing different at all. I have a heart. I'm a woman. I've changed myself medically into a woman. I have a heart that of a woman as well. I long for relationships. I long for family, marriage, children. And I think I have the right to be loved, right to live a dignified life, right to marriage, right to children. And at no cost, I will be ashamed of my gender identity. I'm proud of being a transgender. At 25, I decided to start a small organization. It's called Sahodari Foundation. Sahodari means sister. Our organization is small. Since most of the transgender people in India are into begging and sex work, I wanted to change that. So we have been, for the past 10 years, I've been lobbying with our government, with the judiciary, with our academicians, universities, with our media. So much of hard work for activist people like me. And on April 15, 2014, the Indian Supreme Court finally legally recognized transgender people. But law, policy, will that change people's mindsets? Will that change our families' mindsets? It will not. It won't. Our society has to change, and that through our education system in India, we can change. Our education system in India is so pathetic. It is only of mugging up and memorizing all data. It does not really teach human values. It does not really teach how to respect each other and understand each other and embrace each other and understand that we are all equal. That has to be changed, and we are working on that. As I said, I'm not a transgender. That's not my real identity. Is woman is your identity? That comes as a last. You're an artist. You're a fashion designer. I am an actor. I act in theaters as well as in films. I'm an artist. I do paintings, and I sell my paintings, and I fund the education of underprivileged trans women. And poetry. I published my first Tamil poetry book named Kuri Aruthen. It means phallus I cut, which is going to be soon translated into English as well. And my journey continues. My gender identity is not me. First of all, I'm a human being. I'm an Indian. I'm a human being. And I'm an artist, I'm an activist, I'm a writer. And my transgender or transsexual or hijra or whatever they call me is the least I'm bothered about. I have written a poetry, and I would like to read my poetry. It's actually in Tamil, but I translated it into English. It's called Phallus I Cut. No transcendental yoga I performed to transform myself into a woman. I cut my phallus, soiled in blood, and transcending death, I became a woman. Oh, you do not have ovary, woman you are not, said you. Well, oh, stop. As you have removed your manhood, you are now a desolate tree with decayed barks. You have dug the grave of your own lineage. Live you may till your roots last. The earth that bears you shall give up one day, as you have not planted your branches below, said you. Well, I do not want that ovary to carry your excretions of caste and religious fanaticism. And I do not want in my ovary the gestation of those seeds to grow into a tyrannous tree. Many a woman has carried the seeds of your discriminations. Many a woman who has carried the seeds of your discriminations has made her ovary your lavatory. Luckily, I'm not a woman by birth. And that you deny to accept me as a one is in fact the freedom I got. I do not recite the gynogrammar you have crafted. Call me an error in nature, and call me what you will. I know myself for sure, who I am at any given hour. Renouncing the religion, casting away the caste, we are united as the rejected. Can you live this life we live? Can you become a woman without carrying a womb? Can you become a daughter without sucking your mother's breast? I can. Cut the phallus of your chauvinism, and then, and only then, you tell me that I'm not a woman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kalki. Can we have Pratik on stage now to introduce the next speaker? Pratik, can you come on stage?
Thank you, Kalki, for such an inspiring speech. It's hard to follow up an act, but in an ideal world, coming to HKS for any aspiring politician is the right step forward. But since the time I came up here to the Kennedy School, I came across this term called glass ceiling, which many of us are aware could not be broken in US this time around. The similar glass ceiling exists for us in India as well when it comes to politics. Without money, muscle power, or family legacy, it is very difficult to enter Indian politics. And that glass ceiling is even more unsurmountable than the Hillary Clinton's election this time. And I don't think that can be broken that easily, but one party in India has tried that. So far, so good. Aam Aadmi Party ran a fantastic campaign for common man. They won Delhi with a resounding mandate and are hoping for another encore in Punjab. We have Pritvi Reddy, national spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party, as well as the convener of Aam Aadmi Party in Karnataka, here to share the wonderful story of Aam Aadmi Party and his personal journey of becoming a common man, from a common man to a common man in politics. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Pritvi Reddy.
evening. It's wonderful to be here with you. It's very special for me because I couldn't get here as a student, and it took me becoming a politician to actually get to Harvard. 2 weeks ago, in the midst of a very heated election campaign in Goa, I received a call inviting me to come here and speak with you. I couldn't help but wonder why an ordinary person like me would be invited to speak at such a privileged conference. Was it because I was crazy enough to join politics in India, ignoring a business which was flourishing and making sacrifices as far as my personal life went? I then realized that it's not politics that defines my image. I think it's the image of politics that common men and women have set out to change in India that defines who I am and what I do. I wish to share with you the journey which has brought me to where I am today. Soon after graduating as an engineer, I spent the next couple of years working in Europe, earning in Swiss francs and spending most of my money on travel and food, that too in lire, made me feel like a millionaire. This was much before the advent of global sourcing or internet business. It was a time when exports happened only through personal and business contacts. Having been exposed to some of the best manufacturing processes in the world, I believe this could be done in India and could be done at a much better cost. Well, this was the official reasons for me to come back to India. The real reason being I missed family and friends and could not do without hot idli sambar for breakfast and biryani for lunch. That's when I was hit by a truck, literally. Imagine the mental trauma of a 23-year-old as I lay in bed, not knowing whether I would live and being told that if I did, I would be a vegetable. It was hard. I actually read a lot about people in similar circumstances who had successfully made it out of similar situations. I must confess, it was the love and support of my family, friends, and my wife Pratima, whom I was dating then, that actually helped me pull through. I was determined to live, not just live, I was determined to succeed. After miraculous recovery, I spent the next 15 years in the rat race. Business flourished. However, I had lost touch with the real world. That's when I was hit by a truck again. This time, only figuratively. Pratima and I lost our newborn twins to natural causes. It was hard. I actually spent the next 6 months meeting various spiritual leaders to try and find out an answer as to why this had happened. This incident very quickly brought me off the proverbial high horse, not just to the ground, but below the ground. It was timely advice I received from a friend who said, imagine someone had put a 50-pound weight on your back. You must know this weight will not come off. However, over a period of time, you'll gain the strength to carry this weight, stand, and move on. I decided to accept the weight and move on. What my friend didn't tell me, however, was that over the years, that this weight would be redistributed around my waist. Finding myself firmly on the ground, I decided there was more to life and decided to follow my passion into education and skill building. It was a wonderful experience to actually get involved with a rural school that was set up by my father. With each passing batch, each graduating batch we had in the school, it became clear that rural children in India, given the same opportunities as their urban counterparts, could not just compete, but would actually excel in academic, sports, and cultural activities. Imagine a girl who played badminton in the open air and on mud courts was competing at state level. It was actually the first Obama election that got me interested in politics. The huge volunteer participation, the $1 crowdsourced election funding, most of all, it signified hope and change. It was at a time when democracy in India had been reduced to voting once in 5 years. Voter turnout was as low as 50%. Most importantly, this 50% of voters, 80% of this 50% of voters formed a vote bloc, which was influenced by all the wrong reasons of money, muscle power, religion, and caste. Along with a few friends, I founded a citizens' initiative called Smart Vote. Our intention was to increase voter turnout, to help voters find out more about their candidates so that they can make an informed choice. We actually ventured into trying to create a new kind of vote bloc that would be around issues. Very soon we realized that the apathy of voters had to do more with the lack of good choices on the ballot and a political system which was infested with corruption. It was around this time that, I think it was the year 2010, that political corruption in my state of Karnataka had hit the roof. My namesake, the infamous Reddy brothers, their cabinet colleagues, and the then chief minister were looting the state of its natural resources. We founded something called, actually, a citizens' movement called Corruption Saku. Corruption Saku means enough of corruption. This movement then went on to become the state chapter of the national movement India Against Corruption. I had the wonderful opportunity to work with people like Shri Anna Hazare, Justice Santosh Hegde, Arvind Kejriwal, and Prashant Bhushan, along with millions of Indians, not just in India, but around the world, who had come out on the streets protesting against corruption. After 2 years of activism, it became clear, and we were sad to see, that the entire political class had come together to deny us a strong anti-corruption law. We were mocked. We were told that laws are not made in playgrounds, and that if we wanted to make laws, that we would need to fight and win elections. For most of us, it was a very difficult choice. It was almost no choice at all. You must understand, in India, there still continues to be a notion that politics is for the good for nothing. Many of our former colleagues decided not to get into the muck of politics and remain a citizens' movement. I too was very, very reluctant to join politics. It was an interaction I had with a 26-year-old Swedish politician who told me he had dreams of the way his city and country should be, and he thought politics was the only platform for him to realize these dreams. He told me that while I was doing good in running a rural school and my skill building program, that I could only impact the life of a few hundred children. He went on to say that through politics, you can actually impact the lives of millions of children in India. This is what convinced me to join politics. There I was, helping found a new political outfit called the Aam Aadmi Party, with the broom as its symbol to signify our intent of cleaning up the political system. Aam Aadmi means common man. It doesn't really mean poor man. I have a difficulty at times to explain how someone like me who enjoys playing golf can be an Aam Aadmi. There are many things that I'm really proud of about our party and the government. The thing that stands above all is the transformational change that youth power has brought to our party and government. The youth, you must understand, had fresh ideas, out-of-the-box thinking. They were willing to take risks and innovate. Ours is truly a very young party. The highest decision-making body in our party is in its late 30s. Our treasurer is 27. Our organization secretary is 28. The much talked about education reforms is run by a 30-odd-year-old woman. More importantly, in the recently concluded Punjab elections, our star campaigner was an 18-year-old girl from a small village. What youth has brought is truly a change in the way governance is run in India. I'll just give you a few examples. In Delhi, there is sufficient water. However, in Delhi, people paid huge sums of money to private tanker mafias such that they could get this water. When we first announced 20,000 liters of water free per family per month, it was much criticized. We were told that it would increase wasteful consumption. We were told that the government can ill afford such subsidy. The results, however, are contrary. We actually reduced consumption of water by 18% because people were conscious that if they exceeded 20,000, they would pay for the entire water. We also increased the revenue by reducing the theft and improving the metering of water. Take Delhi's hospitals. We have some of the finest super specialty hospitals in the country. However, you had a very strange situation where a person with a common cold or a headache and a person suffering from a heart attack were vying for the same doctors and the same hospital infrastructure. After studying the data, our team decided that we will set up 1,000 mohalla clinics such that people can actually walk to these clinics in the neighborhood and ensure that 90% of the health issues were treated. One of the greatest impacts that the youth have had and helped in our party and government is the social media. A previous speaker was talking about the social media. I think the social media has done a great amount of good for a party like us because it's helped us tide over a finicky media, an erratic media, which can be both a friend and a foe. Recently, the social media outreach of the Aam Aadmi Party went beyond 150 million people. It's helped us to reach out directly to people with our message as well as ensure that we are able to rebut false propaganda. The next big round of challenges and opportunities are there. We have grave problems in India. We've only just started and we have a long way to go. To tackle this and other challenges, my party and I welcome collaboration with experts and problem solvers with open arms. I'm fortunate today, I must say very fortunate, to be speaking at the best education institution in the world and to some of the brightest minds. It's a matter of time before many of you will receive hefty packages from companies either in the B2B or B2C businesses. I invite you to consider an incredible value package with the Aam Aadmi Party in the V2P business. V for we and P for the people. The value you'll derive from the V2B business is an incredible satisfaction of impacting lives of millions of Indians. Not just that, you'll be very proud to have solved some of the world's most grave problems. If you are interested in an opportunity, do contact us. I can tell you from experience that in spite of all the hardships and pain, the smiles and the blessings you will get from the Aam Aadmi, it makes it all worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Reddy. So before I begin, a little announcement for the speakers. We have timekeeper at the end. Meagan, could you raise the placard? Yeah, so she would be showing you times if you're running over. And also, if you all do not cooperate when Mr. Pavan Kalyan is speaking, we will have to cancel the question and answer round. So please cooperate, let him speak, and we will give you a chance to ask him questions. So please, everyone, cooperate. We are all want the same thing over here, okay? All right, so next up, we have Meagan Fallone. Meagan is an entrepreneur. Meagan is an entrepreneur, a designer, and a passionate mountaineer. Bringing these diverse talents together as the CEO of Barefoot College International, she exemplifies exceptional vision and commitment to social leadership while advocating for strong professional practices within a social innovation context. Her commitment to empowering illiterate and semi-illiterate rural women across the developing world through a mastery of technology, unlocking rural girls' creativity and confidence while leveraging the human potential embodied in poorer rural communities, is an inspiring journey of risk-taking and respect. In her current role at Barefoot College, she leads an award-winning international social enterprise that has, for 43 years, modeled itself on the lifestyle and work style of Mahatma Gandhi. So presenting to you, Meagan Fallone.
Clicker. Namaste, everybody. Really honored to be here. Okay, we're going to go without the clicker. I'm not going to talk about my personal journey because the work for me is my passion. And I think it speaks very much to why I do this. I think that'll be evident to you. I thought I'd share a little bit about the kind of work that we do at Barefoot College. Barefoot College is an extraordinary place. Imagine somewhere where words like social justice, inclusion, diversity, they're not words, they're a way of life. They've been a way of life there since 1972, and we're on our third generation of people living and working for Barefoot College. It is based on, they need to move the slide. It's based on the lifestyle and work style of Mahatma Gandhi, and central to that are two beliefs. The first one is, can you please change the slide? To live simply so that others may simply live. And this attitude, this philosophy of always asking ourselves what we can do without is very much at the heart of how we operate. And the second one is Gandhi believed very strongly in honoring the wisdom, skills, and knowledge that existed in poor rural communities. So our work is based on working with the poorest of the poor, living on less than $1.25 a day, not only in India, but now across the global south. Go ahead. Okay, got to move faster. I'm going to exceed my time. Whoop, nope, back one. Awesome. Great, thanks. Okay, much easier. So we work in 5 program areas. We work on water, we work on renewable energy, we work on education, non-formal education, and we work on livelihood and enterprise development. We also work on advocacy, and that takes 2 forms. One, we certainly work on advocacy for rights-based information and rights-based programs in India to disseminate that knowledge to the poor, but also very much on advocacy with governments to change policy. We are a true social enterprise in the sense that we are working on what I call triple bottom line delivery. Yes, we deliver programs. More importantly, we use human-centric design to look at the social norms, barriers, and systems that have created inequality in the first place. And we very consciously design around those. And lastly, we work on systemic and long-term policy change so that the things that we're doing are institutionalized in government budgets and government policies so that these kinds of inequalities can actually be eradicated. The campus is set in rural Rajasthan between Jaipur and Ajmer, and we have more than 260 people living on the main campus in Rajasthan. It's fully solar electrified. We exist on rainwater harvesting, and it has been solar electrified since 1998, which is pretty exceptional. It is, as far as I know, the only college in the world built by and for the rural poor. So you see me speaking to you today, but I am not Barefoot College. Barefoot College was built by a beautiful collaboration between urban educated youth and youth in rural areas. And this magic of bringing these 2 groups together is, I think, what has sustained it through all these years and what we now work very hard to exemplify. So we redefined professionalism. We like to talk about professionals as being confident, competent, and having belief. Having a certificate doesn't make you a professional in our eyes. We started in education, but non-formal education, and in fact trying to capture all of the children in rural areas who do not attend state school for a variety of reasons. Most importantly, they're needed to help families subsist in their way of life. That is not to be confused with child labor, but it takes everyone in a family to survive in rural India still today. So primarily, these are girls. More than 80% of the girls who attend this program come from families where their brothers most probably do go to school, but they, in fact, do not. They herd goats, in fact, in many cases, or work in fields from 6:30 in the morning until 5:30 in the evening. And then they go home, do their chores, and come to our solar-powered night schools. The curriculum is a big change from what you find in the government schools. First of all, the teachers are from the community. They're non-formally trained teachers, and they are capacity built by us to be able to deliver a place-based, issue-based, and civil society development curriculum. This means that mathematics lessons are based on crop rotation and crop yield. We figured out early on that if you can give girls fantastic skills in practical knowledge, their value at home goes up dramatically. Fathers are far less likely to see them as a marriageable financial commodity and much more likely to want to keep them around at home. What happens is we run a children's parliament. So we have a prime minister, we have minister of education, minister of water, and incredibly, in 35 years, there's never been a boy prime minister. We have only ever had girl prime ministers. It is a thoroughly engaged and interactive program that is really extraordinary and unique in the fact that children are really encouraged to be 100% who they are. and to participate fully in their own learning. We'll come back to why that's important in a minute. Our exploration of solar energy started very early on, and this is a remarkable program now which has gone global. And so I'll talk about this just for a minute. We work in solar-powered reverse osmosis desalinization of water because water is one of our primary areas of work. More importantly, we also started working on solar cooking and then solar home lighting. We began looking at light as a human right, not a luxury item that you ought to be able to be rich to afford. Access to clean light is a human right, and it enables everything that we would like to see positively coming out of the developing world. So for 1.8 billion people, this is light. And for many million children, this is how they study at night. This is a young boy in Belize, and then they throw the batteries in the water source outside the door when they're done. But it's a bit tough to learn to read and to really interact and be able to do livelihood or be able to have a healthy environment. The number one killer of women in the developing world is the inhalation of black smoke coming off of bad kerosene, which is what you see in this picture. And whole families use that for light at night. So we'd like to change that picture. We think this is a much more holistically healthy picture for children to learn with good quality light and also whole households illuminated. In 2010, we started training women and men to be solar engineers. We started looking at why can't citizens be empowered with technology and technology knowledge to be able to serve their own basic needs. And what came out of that was a couple of extraordinary lessons. The first one is we learned very quickly on men are untrainable. They're restless, they're mobile, and the minute they learn a skill, they run to the nearest city and they leave their communities. And women, on the other hand, were completely the opposite. Women are grounded in their community. What they do for their families, for their children, for their way of life, and nothing motivates them to leave and abandon the people that they love and care about. So we decided that they were the best bet going. Now, that was before I learned from the United Nations that, in fact, for every dollar earned by a man in the developing world, only 27 cents go back to his family. For a woman, it's 85 cents. So, I'm always looking for the economic angle here to try to prove what I instinctually know, which is that women are by far the best investment we can make in the developing world. So, we started bringing women from countries all over the developing world to India for 6 months to train them as fully functioning solar engineers. Now, this is an extraordinary program, and guess who pays for it? The government of India. Ministry of External Affairs has a program called ITEC, the India Technical Economic Cooperation Program, and the Barefoot College is one of the accredited programs in this. That means I can choose up to 40 women every 6 months from any developing world country, and the government of India pays their travel and training to come to India. Now there's the catch. I only take women who are illiterate and semi-literate. So 40 women from 10 countries who can't read and write, who don't speak the same language, who've never left their villages, make a journey to India that is epic every 6 months. Their tenacity, courage, absolute, clear commitment to making the quality of life better for each and every person in their community is extraordinary and is absolutely admirable. They are not learning light technology. This is not Legoland. These women are learning circuitry. They are building circuit boards. They're fabricating solar home lighting systems. And in fact, today, these women have made this program the single largest distributor of solar home lighting systems at the bottom of the pyramid in the world. 2 years ago, we were very blessed. I had a fabulous opportunity to meet Lisa Jackson from Apple. And Apple was looking to learn with us about what would happen when we put really high-quality technology into the hands of the rural poor. And we started a collaboration to integrate Apple quality digital tools into both the solar engineering training and also into our education programs. And what has come from that is an amplification of the impact, both in terms of the women's capacity, but also our capacity to disseminate to many more people this information. What you might not realize when you look at this slide is that all of the circuitry was designed, in fact, by illiterate and semi-literate, non-formally educated rural Indians. To be able to be one of only 2 Indian organizations who have exported their model globally, I think is something really to be proud of. And I am most happy to share that with you because it's something you all should be proud of too. When we bring light, we don't just bring a lantern, we light up a whole household. And we do it for every household in a community. And they are means tested. They are participants in this program. They have helped us to develop this into a blended social enterprise, which now sells, markets, and sends these home lighting systems around the developing world. In 2008, we had this sort of a footprint, 5 countries, and today we are in 81 countries. There's not too many for-profit enterprises that have had that kind of scale and that kind of ability to partner with organizations all over the world. I think that's one of the beauties of social enterprise. But we've trained more than 960 women solar engineers. And in recognition of that, the government of India has now funded us to build 5 Barefoot Colleges in sub-Saharan Africa. We're also working on one in Guatemala, one in Fiji, and one in Myanmar. So this model is going to go global in a very large way. We recognized that data and being able to report on impact was incredibly important, and we couldn't afford to buy any of the fancy data collection services. So we went to the drawing board on a Thursday morning, and within a week we'd figured out how to use a lot of open source software and be able to create our own, which we did. And it's now delivered by women and by my staff around the world in communities themselves, and that data is fed back. These are just some images from the women. That data is fed back, and we use that data then to be able to advocate with government. We don't talk about gender. I don't talk about gender equality when we go to a community to introduce this model. But you can bet when she climbs up there and puts that panel and turns on the lights and the whole village, gives the village exactly what they want most. Her place, her recognition, her role as a role model for other girls and even young boys is assured. We don't need to talk about gender. She becomes a wise professional in that community, and her role is changed forever. But of course, it's never enough, and so she asked for more, and we said, okay, what do you want? Because everything we do at Barefoot comes from the bottom up. And she told us there were 8 categories of information that she wanted in order to be able to sustain long-term economic viability. So we started doing micro-enterprise with her, basic rights-based work, home budgeting, women's reproductive health and wellness. They now become teachers of all of these skills. They have to high-five after they learn everything. That's not to say great job, it's to say you have to teach 5 more women. So it's gone viral through the women. All of these things are digitized without language so that they can be disseminated across languages. These are tribal women, Chhattisgarh, Orissa, Jharkhand. These are women who never even knew what a digital tool was, and they're taking an iPad back to their villages. We started developing sustainable livelihoods and creating curriculums around sustainable livelihoods for those communities so they could then build economic mobility and economic energy on that. We launched our first round of honey last year. It was sold out. We'll now go to 5 states in India with the honey model. And so you too can buy Be Barefoot honey soon, coming near you. We developed a clothing line and a training program for master trainers within the solar engineers, which they now train on in their training centers. This line has been incredibly successful in East Africa, and again will move to Latin America this year. The women were really proud to present the Prime Minister with some of their products last year. In fact, he's, for those of you who don't know him, he loves technology, and so he was really fascinated with the solar technology. I think the important thing to note is that in thinking about India as a global leader, this shift that's coming now, a leader within a South-South conversation, and really driving different kinds of development initiatives. We are really looking at this as the first, and I hope of many, initiatives that partner with government, with host governments in the Global South, to take Indian best practices of fine community work and show their relevance to all developing world countries. This problem of the digital divide and inequality that exists between those of us who have access to energy, access to connectivity, and access to content, which means we can learn and access what we'd like to know, is a critical issue. And in its wake comes a lot of the issues that we're finding around radicalism. And in the space where there's no information, good information comes slower somehow than bad information. So we started looking at the existing model we have and how it can scale even further. And since there's a workshop in every community that has 300 watts of power on it, we then went to our in-house R&D team, also non-formally educated. I think there's one in that team who has 8 years of primary school. And we built a solar-powered iPad charger, started putting Wi-Fi routers that are solar powered into rural communities, tribal communities in India first, and then using the digital tools for kids to be able to exchange and to develop their own content to share. So I'm going to leave you on that note, and with just one final thought, which is a Gandhi thought, which is we may never know the effect of our actions, but if we do nothing, nothing will change. Thank you.
All right. You guys have been great so far. So please be great going forward too. And if you guys are tweeting, please use the hashtag IndiaConference 2017. Great. So before we introduce the speaker, we have a 2-minute clip that's going to come. So Priti, can we have the clip?
ఇల్లేమో ఘోరం, అసలే చీకటి గాఢంధకారం, చేతిలో దీపం లేదు, కానీ గుండెల నిండా ధైర్యం ఉంది. నేను ఈ రోజున రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వాలు కానీ కేంద్ర ప్రభుత్వాలు కానీ అడిగేది, ఒక క్రానిక్గా ఒక ప్రాంతం వేలాది మంది దశాబ్దాలుగా చనిపోతున్నప్పుడు ఇది ఏ ఒక్క ప్రజాప్రతినిధి దృష్టికి ఎందుకు వెళ్ళలేదు?
Wow. 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 Oh. Wow. Okay. So I'll take just a minute. Not more than that, I promise. Right? I didn't know that I would be in this situation to try and introduce someone everyone already knew. Right? And this is probably my poster boy moment at Harvard as well. So I'm here to introduce you to Mr. Pavan Kalyan, but not to the superstar, the politician, the activist, and the social worker, who has committed himself to the socio-economic development of the masses by participating in grassroots politics. In a country where election strategies are still developed on the lines of caste and religion, Mr. Kalyan, wow, I'm forgetting. I'm just getting stressed, sorry. So Mr. Kalyan has basically developed a new strategy and he's reaching it, I'm sorry guys, it's just too much stress. But it happens, I know. Yeah? So I've often heard him say, I have no caste, I have no religion, I'm just an Indian, right? Just yesterday, there was a rally of more than 500 cars, which happened in Nashua in Mr. Kalyan's honor. So taking no more time, I invite Mr. Pavan Kalyan. I'm sorry, sir. I couldn't do a better job. Sorry.
అందరికీ నా హృదయపూర్వక నమస్కారాలు. I bow and pay my heartfelt respects to the divinity within each one of you. I also pay my deep respects to the founding fathers of Harvard and to their continuing legacy of excellence in human thought. I would like to convey my heartfelt thanks to the student community of Harvard and the committee who hosted all this, to Mehul and his team. Thank you a lot for inviting me. It's a privilege to be one of the speakers here, and thank you. So you have to understand my situation. The reason is, I started my education at street school. It's quite difficult for me to address a speech in Harvard, so you have to understand my situation. My preteens and adolescent years, from late 70s to early 90s, was a beginning and end for so many cultural, socio-cultural and political changes happened. So for me, as a kid, I was coming from a very small, lower middle class family. My father started his life as a police constable, and my mother being a housewife, and we are a family of 5. So I was a sick child. I had a bronchitis problem, so I had ample time to contemplate about life's problems. Whenever I used to fall sick, not going to school, I used to be at home, I used to have all the time to think about what's happening around me. So one day, maybe just finished my street school, which means it's literally on the street, in a small town called Ongol. My father transferred to another small town. So they put me to another school, which is definitely a better school than what I used to study there. where I had studied earlier. So in that school, one day we had a lesson. My teacher was telling about in the class, the lesson's name is Ma Buddy. It means our school. The lesson explains how beautiful our school is and what kind of school it is. And we have such beautiful trees, we have a huge playground, and we have a lot of things to play. We have a beautiful library, we have this kind of books. So it goes on, goes on. And suddenly my teacher turned because I said something to my friend and everyone were giggling. And he said, Kalyan, get up. I said, what were you saying? And I said, I had a doubt and I was sharing with this guy. I said, what is it? I said, our school doesn't have a playground and we don't have books and we don't have any trees. And for me, what the teacher did, she told me to get up and she gave me the beating of my life. Till now, I could never forget that. Because for me, the first time I realized in my life what had been written in the books, what had been said in the in spoken word, and the reality are two different things. So for me, that has become a lifetime obsession to see the gap between what has been said and what has been done. That has become a lifetime obsession. So till now, my obsession is, even in the political manifesto, it's still not manifest. What they promise and what they deliver are two different things. So for that reason, it has become such an obsession to me. I lost my focus in my education. Constantly I used to see issues everywhere, problems everywhere. So successfully, I failed in my exams. True. I successfully failed in my exams, so I could not continue my education. So I had to stop. So one day, the reason was, I was so stressed out, and everyone, all my friends were going to for in universities in America, and they were doing good things. And here I've been failing. I failed in 10th grade, I failed in 11th grade, I failed in 12th grade. I was consistently I was failing. I went into some kind of depression, and I wanted to commit suicide. Because for me, it was such a painful situation. Here, I could see pain and problems everywhere, and my focus is not on the education, on the social ills. So I thought of committing suicide. My brother, I think most of you know that my brother is also an actor. And he had a licensed pistol. Yeah. So I thought of taking his pistol. I want to kill myself for the humiliation, for I'm not able to live up what my promise, what my parents had taught of me to become something. There was a pain I had. So luckily I said to one of my family members, and they hold me somewhere, they counseled me, and I could not go ahead with that. And later I had given up my education, and somehow I started doing whatever I could do. Maybe I was experimenting with my life after that. I went into a different kind of education. I did my computers, and I went into yoga. I did a lot of martial arts and everything. I was continuing like that. For me, as we all know that, every individual is a product of his time and environment. This was my environment. I grew up. So finally, what annoyed me or what irritated me was to come into politics after being an actor. For me, to get into acting in the first place, I was not at all interested in acting. I wanted to be a yogi. And because for me, I wanted to be away from this materialistic life. I was deeply in yoga. I was doing a lot of meditations for a few hours. And I used to give a lot of nice spiritual lectures to everyone in my family. Yeah. So one day my brother was quite a hard worker, and he used to work day and night. He used to come home completely tired. Here I used to tell him what life is all about, how we should be detached. One day he was so irritated with me, and he said, "Idiot." Yeah, he called me idiot. "Whatever you say, I agree with you. Can you be the same guy and same person, even after being something, after creating something, after getting to something, make something concrete and achieving something? Could you be the same thing?" Then I listened to you, I said. And that was an awakening to me. So it took me some time. Now suddenly life is right in front of me. I don't know this. I missed my education. I missed everything possible. The only opportunity I had was acting. And you have to understand me, I'm quite shy. And even now, if I have to go to shoot, I will never go straight. I always say, go like this, go. I go from a corner and go, and secretly, like first shot, I always get into in a discreet manner. Then I feel comfortable. So imagine my plight. When I had started, I was shy, and finally, out of necessity, I had to come out of my own shackles. So what I did, finally after becoming an actor, what my whole passion was, all through my childhood, I was studying society. I was studying things around me. At one point of time in my childhood, because before I was consistently, the reasons why I was failing was, I could see a lot of issues, a lot of injustice happening around me. I wanted to get into some kind of extremist outfits like Naxalites and all. My brother was very worried about my future. He doesn't know how to control me. He thought if I would buy him a gun, maybe he will confine himself not to go into this kind of extremist outfits. But my problem was not about extremity, not about getting into Naxalites or radicals. For me, my problem was how to address these issues. Because for me, I had always seen law, Indian law, any situation, gross injustice happens, the law is applied weakly to the strong and strongly to the weak. That's the problem of our country. So for me, somehow I was very upset. And all through my life, I struggled because, as I said, especially in late 70s and 90s, it was quite a turbulent time, at least for me. The reason was, I wanted to embrace an ideology, and here we had capitalism one side, and still communism was quite active then, and Union of Soviet Socialist Republic was still active. And for me, my father comes from a communist family, and he was a hardcore communist. My mother is deeply religious, and my father, like any other Indian communist, I don't know. Definitely, my father, like other communists, I don't know. But my father was also a great devotee of Swami Vivekananda and Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So the contrast of communism and Swami Vivekananda teachings used to be right in my home. It used to be quite confusing for me. So I don't know which one to embrace. So I was to wonder what kind of ideology is needed for me to go ahead. That I had these problems. So for me, as I was going ahead, after I had become an actor, and finally I thought I could not do all this, so let me at least in my films, let me project what I have, what I feel about society. So once in a while, when I get an opportunity, I used to convey it through my films and songs for an extent, but it did not give me enough satisfaction. Always I used to feel short of something, I used to feel irritated with me. And I tried different aspects of filmmaking, but nothing could give me the complete satisfaction. So always there used to be some kind of, I used to fall short. So for me, when I had been noticing so many things like the political situation happening around me, the one particular situation was, what hurts me is the divisiveness of our country. For me, Nani Palkiwala, the eminent lawyer who passed away, he's a great role model for me. I keep admiring him a lot. He says, we have Maharashtrians, we have Andhras, we have Tamilians, we have Hindus, we have Muslims, we have every kind of sect except Indians. For me, our society has divided into so many verticals. For me, this divisiveness is to always worry me. And two qualities really propelled me to get into politics was, one is the passiveness of our country, passiveness of Indian society, and the divisiveness of Indian society. For me, the divisiveness I had seen right from my childhood. My father, being a government employee, he used to go from place to place. For me, always for every 2 years, I have to get into a new school and a new neighborhood and with new group of friends. For me, the difference is you have to get into a new school, and suddenly my language used to change because I was previously in some other place. So my language, my dialect used to change. So people used to see me like an outsider. The only difference is the Telugu, the same Telugu I'm talking about, it's not even another language, the same Telugu for 100 kilometers, the dialect changes, and people used to see me as an outsider. So they could never embrace me completely. So that used to confuse me, that used to make me ponder why. In the same way, I had seen the passive attitude once in my childhood when I was in 7th grade. My sister was she's around 16, 17 then, she used to go to a dance school. And my father being a policeman, and my sister went for a dance class and one evening, and she came back crying. What exactly happened was a local thug caught hold of her hand, he was dragging her, like he was taking her away. And so many people were just blindly looking at it, no one had moved. Not even an inch. And finally something happened, she had to rescue herself and she came back crying and she came back home running. For me at that age, I was filled with rage, I want to kill that guy. It was mad for me. I went mad. My anger was, it is not about the thug. Thugs can always be handled. The problem was the people around who are passive. They don't have the guts to do anything. For me, that has become a thought, why? What exactly happened to them? How come they can't move? And that has become the understood, people are damn scared in our society because of the corrupt political system and corrupt group of political class, and the law works only to the influential people and only to the powerful people. So that's the reason. That's what happened to me. That's why our society has become passive. For me, that was the reason I had seen the same attitude was getting multiplied every day and every day. So the reason after some time, being an actor, I realized the way our state has been divided, and for me, it was a very painful situation, not about the state division. The issue, the way government handled, the parties handled, they took care of the issue. They kept the issue for 17 years. They kept the issue in cold storage. And one fine day, they had woken up, and they broke the state in 12 hours. The kind of problems, what still we are unfolding here in both the states is mindless division without any thought process. That's what had really irritated me and really annoyed me. The problem is, it is governments without any thought, they can do anything they want without any thought, without any forethought, without any proper exercising. That has created a lot of problems. For me, the divisiveness is always a problem. Imagine, in one country, we speak one language, suddenly same Telugu-speaking communities has become bitter. There's a lot of hostility between both the regions. That created a deep pain in me because being a lover of my country, being the lover of my nation, being madly in love with my nation, that gave me a deep pain. So for me, that particular day, I don't know what to do. And previously, I had went into politics to support my brother, but I had given up after some time. And the only thought was, I want to unveil the truth. I want to show the problem what exactly, the way it should be, the way to look at it. The reason why I came into politics was, the issue, I don't have any problem. What exactly happening, because my generation doesn't know what exactly happened. It is The problem of 60s politicians and 70s politicians and 80s and 90s, the successive political class made mistakes, and the future generations has to pay the price for the mistakes of the earlier generations and earlier political class. That's what really gave me pain. So that's the reason what made me to come into politics. And for me, the problem here is I don't have much time to communicate to you. Maybe tomorrow I'll communicate to you. The only thing is I can tell you, time is too short, so I'll give you one few parting lines. I love our country. I want India to be culturally, though we are different communities, we should be as one no matter what we do. We have to be culturally, really, India has to integrate. Janasena stands for cultural integration of India. The parting words would be, I want to say, in Telugu they say, "Ye desam egina indu kalidina pogadarani talli bhumi bharatanu." Whichever country you go, wherever you step into, without praising your motherland, never get to. So I want to say, Bharat Mata ki Jai. And also because of short of time, because lack of time, they're not able to extend the time for question and answer, so we'll see you tomorrow morning. Sure. Thank you. Good night.